Okay, who's had a moment like that? I love having those moments where it's like, yay, everybody be really positive. And then you trip and fall down the stairs, and then you're like, okay, how do I be positive about that? Woohoo, I got down the stairs really fast. Okay, good. And if you can do that, that's a great step in a very, very positive direction. Okay? I love seeing people that can bounce back from adversity like that. My favorite moment with this was when I was doing my student teaching. It was like my second week. I actually ripped my pants on the whiteboard. And so I had to teach the whole rest of the day with my pants hanging wide open and my underwear totally visible. It was really embarrassing. But we tried to have some positive fun with it. Okay? So today is about being positive, and this is one of the most powerful forces in the whole entire universe. I've heard of it, it's positivity. Okay? Positivity has tons of good quotes on it. Winston Churchill has one of my favorites. The positive thinker sees the invisible, feels the intangible, achieves the impossible. Right? It's the power of positive mindset, and there's tons of research, tons of books that are written about this. Maybe you've experienced it in your life. Right? If you have, awesome. If you haven't, practice it. Because remember, this is all about skill development, right, Ryan? This is all about developing skills, and positivity is a skill. Will Smith, you guys know him, right? Will Smith has one of my favorite all-time quotes. He says, "Talent you have naturally. Skill comes from hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft." Okay? With skill, it just takes hours and hours and hours of work, and if you're willing to put it in, you can develop whatever skill that you want to. The funny thing is, talent's overrated and skills are underrated. If you want to make a difference, if you want to be successful in life, get good at something. Develop your skills. And positivity is one of the biggest, best skills that you can work to develop. All right? The second one on here is on here for a reason. Having a positive attitude isn't wishy-washy. It's a concrete and intelligent way to view problems, challenges, and obstacles. So that's why we're talking about it here. This is not about you just sitting there and thinking everything's wonderful and great when it's not. Okay? That's not positivity. Positivity is being able to see things in a bad situation that are good, but it is not just sitting around and ignoring all the bad things. And that's what it means by being wishy-washy. We're not telling you to pretend the bad things in your life don't happen or aren't actually going on. But what we are asking you to do is practice the skill of positivity, being able to find the good. Remember our power equation? E plus R equals O. The event plus the response equals the outcome. Your response. And that's a function of your attitude, your effort, how you treat other people, and being unconditionally grateful. Positivity is one of the most important skills when it comes to doing that. Okay? So how powerful is positivity? I like to think of it kind of like we think of ants. You've all heard that ants can lift 50 times their body weight. Okay? Think about that. If you could lift 50 times your body weight, how much would that be? For me, that would be something like 10,000 or 100,000 pounds. I'm not great at math. Right? I just know it's a lot. Positivity has the power to do those kind of things. And until you practice and develop that skill, you're not fully unlocking the potential that positivity has to make a big difference in your life. So that's the challenge. Okay, here's some of the research on it. Positivity has been shown through studies and all the fun stuff that they like to do to forecast flourishing or languishing in somebody's life. Now those are really big words. And so I want to talk about what those words mean before we get more into it. Flourishing is this. Picture a plant that's doing really, really well. Plant gets plenty of sun, plenty of water, plenty of nutrients, gets everything that it needs, and that's how we end up with the big, bright, beautiful green forests. Okay? And the fruit on the trees, by the way, have you ever noticed that the fruit is the last thing to ever develop on a tree or a plant? There's a nice little metaphor there if you think about that for a minute, and you'll get it. See me later if you don't. But flourishing is when a plant is really healthy and it's producing like it should be producing, or even better than that. So that's flourishing. Languishing is the opposite. Languishing in plant terms is yellow, droopy, wilty, not doing very well, looks something like this. That's a plant that's languishing. It's not getting the nutrients that it needs, it's not getting the sun that it needs, it's not getting what it needs in order to survive. So what the research done by Barbara Friedrichsen from the UNC at Chapel Hill, that's the Tar Heels for you sports people, is they found that a positive to negative ratio of 3 to 1 is the tipping point or the magic line that forecasts flourishing versus languishing. So if your positive inputs outweigh your negatives 3-to-1, that forecasts flourishing in your life. Here's what else they found. 3-to-1 forecasts the flourishing and peak performance. If it drops below that, though, and it goes to 2 positives for 1 negative, that forecasts somebody just keeping their head above water, which is probably how most of us feel a lot of the times. We're just kind of surviving. We're just going through the motions. We're just getting enough in order to survive. If it dips down to 1-to-1, this is where you start to get into the languishing with little signs of hope. These are the people who are starting to lose some hope. Okay? They might walk around like most of you do all the time. Okay? And you're not alone in that, by the way. If you dip to the other side of that, if your negatives start to outweigh your positives, this is where it starts to forecast things like possible depression or other psychological issues that may pop up. But depression's a really big one when your positive-negative ratio gets way out of whack. Okay? Please notice it takes 3 positives to balance out the 1 negative. So it's not a 1-to-1 thing. It's not 1 positive, 1 negative, and they balance out. It's 3-to-1. 3 positives are necessary to balance out 1 negative. All right, what counts as positive inputs? And as you look through this list, ask yourself, where are you getting this from? Are you getting enough of this in your life? Things like joy, gratitude, serenity, inspiration. When was the last time you were inspired? And when was the last time somebody said something, you're like, wow, that really inspires me. You read something, it's like, wow, that makes me want to go out and make a difference. That makes me believe that I can do something awesome, something that inspired you. That's a positive input. Right? Love, hope, awe, amusement. By the way, with amusement, sometimes we make fun of other people because we find it amusing. That's not a positive input. If you're tearing somebody else down, it might make you feel good for a second, but you know deep down inside that it's not the right thing to do, it's not the right way to get amusement, and that doesn't help. That damages you in another way. It hurts what they call congruence, and that's a whole other psychological kettle of fish. So you have to be careful with amusement. Good jokes, okay? Fun jokes, things that are fun for everybody that's involved. Okay? Going on an amusement park ride, that's why they call them amusement parks. When something's interesting to you, when something catches your attention and you pay a little positive attention to it, that's a positive input. And having a sense of pride, it's not a bad thing to notice when you've done something well. Okay? Sometimes we don't want to look cocky, and so we don't own up to the good things that we do, and that ends up hurting us more than it helps us. Things that count as negative inputs. Any input that makes you feel less of any of these things. Anything that makes you feel less important, less safe, less worthy, less unique, less recognized, less valued, less appreciated, less accepted, or less understood. And often we don't mean to make other people feel this way, but sometimes our actions or our words make people feel this way. All right, got to hit the stop sign for a second. I have a little thing with sarcasm. And if you've been in my class, you may have heard me go on about this a little bit more. Please be really careful with sarcasm. We've gotten to the point in our country where we put sarcasm on a pedestal and think it's this wonderful, glorious way to try to communicate with other people because hey, it's funny. But the whole idea behind sarcasm is that we say something, but we mean something else. How do I know when I can trust what you're saying if you're sarcastic with me most of the time? If somebody's sarcastic with you a lot, and then they give you a sincere compliment, part of you knows, maybe I can't trust them. If I have somebody that's really sarcastic with me and one day they come up, hey, that's a nice shirt. Okay, are they being honest with me or are they being sarcastic? And what it does is it actually hurts our ability to take something that may be funny, okay, and turn it into a positive. And sometimes, more often than we think, they turn into big negatives. And so you got to be really careful with sarcasm. Now, can you have inside jokes with your friends and do stuff like that? Yes, you can. But you have to be really, really careful with it, and you'd be surprised how little you can actually do with sarcasm. As a coach, this is when I started to get into this research, was as a coach, I would be really sarcastic with my players, and I started reading this and I felt awful. Because I was like, wow, what am I actually communicating to my players? How do they know when I'm, as a coach, when I'm like, yeah, great shot, and I'm being sarcastic, but then I actually give them a compliment, they don't know if I'm being honest or not. And so it was hurting my ability as a coach to do my best because I was using sarcasm too much. So you have to think about the relationship. You have to think about what you want to get out of it. But if you're really trying to be more positive in your life, I would really think twice about using sarcasm as a way of generating positivity. Okay, another thing to think about. And if you're taking notes, this is awesome. This is great stuff for helping you to understand how to apply this skill. So I see some of you taking notes. Good for you. I hope more of you start doing it because this stuff will really make a difference in your life. Relative weight of importance and duration. How much or how long you're exposed to an input and who says it or where you get the positives and negatives from matters a ton. Someone or something very important can carry a lot more weight. If there's somebody like as a coach, this is when I started to realize what I was screwing up as a coach, is if I say something negative as a coach, that means 10 times more than if some other random person says the same negative thing. Because if I'm the guy that controls the playing time and I'm like, hey, you suck, right? That's like a giant negative. But as a coach, if I say something positive and sincere, that also carries more weight. And so you have to be very careful with who you're saying what to, because if you're a good friend to somebody and you mean a lot to them, and it's not what you think you mean to them, it's what they think you mean to them. And you have to have this high level of awareness that, you know what, I know I'm really important to Ryan, and so I have to be extra careful about what I say to him. Because if I say something positive, that can mean a lot to him, but if I say something negative, it also means a lot to him. So be very aware of your relationships, and try to see something from somebody else's point of view. If you mean a lot to somebody, parents, I've talked to your parents about this, by the way. I don't know if some of them have talked to you, but as a parent, that relationship that they have with you, even if you won't admit it, is one of, if not the most important relationships in your life. And as a parent, if your parent says something negative to you, it tends to weigh a lot more. And if you're a parent and you say something positive, it also weighs a lot more. But I know as a parent, I screw this up all the time with my kids, because it's something I take for granted. I can make a million excuses, but I just need to be better at it. And so I've talked to your parents about this stuff too, but this is really important to keep in mind with positivity. And then how long you're exposed to it. You can hear one negative comment once, and it might not do anything to you. But if you're exposed to the same negative stuff over and over and over, eventually it wears you down and it starts to add up. So just be aware of those things. Okay, so here's an example. Tell me, and you might recognize some of this stuff. I just tried to go through some events that may happen in your day, just to kind of give us an idea. If you're anything like me, you've had that moment where you're like, dude, I'm super motivated. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to go to the gym, and I'm going to work out. I'm going to start working out this week. I'm going to go 4 times this week, and it starts tomorrow. And I get myself all fired up. So I set my alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm all kinds of motivated. I'm ready to go. 5 o'clock, the alarm goes off. And what do? Snooze. Okay? I hit the snooze button. I go back to sleep. It goes off again, and I snooze it again. And eventually I get to the point, like every time that snooze button goes off, what am I saying to myself? Oh, I just need a little more sleep. Oh, it's too comfy. But sooner or later, it starts to turn to, oh man, I'm just unmotivated. I'm lazy. I can't do this. Maybe I don't really want to work out. And we start justifying and making all kinds of excuses. And most of us have been through something like this. But our self-talk goes bad when we start to pile negative inputs on ourselves. So now I get out of bed and I run downstairs, I'm late, and my mom hits me with, you're so lazy. All you ever do is sleep in. You just snooze, snooze, snooze. So my mom hits me with that. So now I'm leaving the door with a decent amount of negatives. How many positives do I have so far? Not many, if any. Okay, so maybe I throw on a song I like and it makes me feel a little better. But then I get to school, now I'm late for the class, and the teacher hits you with the snarky comment. Carter, nice of you to join us today. Right? Anybody have the teacher says that? Okay, I screw that up a lot as a teacher. Hit him with the sarcastic comment. Okay, but that's a negative input. Now I just added to Carter's bad day. Okay? Your friends give you grief. They're like, oh my gosh, I needed you before school. Where were you? Okay? And then you feel bad because you weren't there, because you were lazy, because you were sleeping in. So we get trapped in this net. And how many negatives are we up to? A lot. Even if it's only 5, okay, how many positives do we need to bounce that out? 15. Where are the 15 positive comments coming from in my day so far? Okay, but I'm walking to my next class, that cute girl. She's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, yes. Okay, relative weight of important duration. Somebody important to me, flirts with me a little bit, that makes me feel good, so I get a positive. But then the pictures that I posted on Instagram from homecoming, only 10 people liked it. Maybe I wasn't very cute. Maybe my date wasn't very cute. Maybe we had a bad time. I don't know. My date didn't even like the picture. See how this goes sideways really fast? Okay. Teacher does say I did a good job on a test, so I get something else. I go to practice. Coach rips on me because the coach thinks I'm not going hard enough. Whatever, he doesn't know anything. I go home. My dad gets on me because I'm behind in my classes. Doesn't matter that I'm busy. I've got all this other stuff going on, but he gets on me. My little brother, little sister's a pain in the butt. Anybody experience this? Little brother, little sister is a real pain in the butt. Counts as negative input. Okay. But then you go to bed, your mom's like, I love you. And gives you a big hug, and it makes you feel a little bit better. But, so we add all those things up, and this isn't like perfectly accurate, but just to kind of get the picture, you got 3 positives, and you got 11 negatives up there. If I was going to bounce that out, how many positives would I need to add to this? 30. Okay, I have a deficit of 30 positive inputs that I need to get somewhere. That's what it should look like. 33 positives for the 11 negatives. How many of us actually get to this? 80% of Americans run around deficient in our positive inputs. 80% of us. That means if we went around this room, 4 out of every 5 of you. Okay, so look at the 4 people next to you. If you're getting the positive comments, that means none of them are. Okay? If you're not, that means one of those other 4 is. 1 out of every 5 people is getting enough positive inputs in their life. That's sad. And we need to try to fix it. Okay? So, here's what I want you to do to try to start to help with this. The journals that you've got in your Jet Time classes. And if you haven't got it, make sure you get one from your Jet Time instructor. If they don't have them, make sure they get with me so I get them to them. And what I want you to start doing every day in Jet Time, okay? Every day in Jet Time, as long as your instructor doesn't have something else that takes the time, I want you to get out the journal and I want you to write down 15 to 63, and I'm not kidding about that, things that you did well or that you're proud of. You can also write down things that you're grateful for or anything that you consider to be something that went well. So for me, this is what a what went well journal might look like. I noticed that my wife worked really hard to make a great meal, and I gave her a compliment for it. Okay, that's noticing something that I did well. Remember, to honor your uniqueness, you got to notice the good that you do. We are awful as a society at noticing the good in ourselves and in other people. How many of you wish more people would notice the good things that you do? Seriously? Thank you. A couple honest people, other people sleeping. Everybody needs more positivity. And we all wish other people would notice the good. I wish my dad would just notice that I did this. I mowed the lawn without being asked. I wish that they give me credit for showing up to school even though it's really hard. I wish that they give me credit just for trying my hardest on that play or on that test or on that assignment. I wish they'd notice those things. We don't give ourselves or other people enough credit for the good that they do because it's a skill that none of us have ever practiced. We don't practice noticing the good. That's why we're doing this. We want to practice noticing the good. And if I don't practice noticing the good that my wife does, I'm not helping her out. I'm not having the best relationship that I can. So I noticed and I complimented her on it. I gave my best effort in planning for my next class. I actually sat down, spent 30 minutes preparing what I want to teach my class next time. I did that, and I noticed that, and I give myself credit for that, and that's a good thing. Okay? I made a healthy food choice at lunch. Instead of just having the triple Big Mac burger supreme that is like 3,000 calories and clogs my arteries, okay? I chose to have the salad. I made a healthy food choice. And if you've noticed those things, sometimes noticing that you did something well makes it more likely that you're going to do it again. Because if you reward yourself with that little hit of dopamine that you get in your brain, it's like, hey, you know what, good job. You're more likely to do it again. And that's what you want, is to try to build good habits. So when you notice the good, it's easier to do it. I did my workout even though I didn't feel like it. I did not feel like getting up and running for 20 miles on Saturday morning, but I did it. Okay? What's something hard that you've done that you need to give yourself credit for doing? What's some area that you've grown in that you need to give yourself credit for growing in? I spent 5 minutes visualizing successful interactions. I picked up trash that was lying around, even though it wasn't mine. I didn't have to, but I did it. That's something good. I paid attention with my eyes and my ears in the meeting. Didn't really want to be there, but I focused and I made myself do what I was supposed to do when I was supposed to do it. I should be getting credit for that. And you notice the good that you do, it's going to build your abilities to notice the good in others. I use better questions to start conversations with my children. That's one that I'm working on right now and trying to be better. So that's what a What Went Well journal looks like for me. Most people have a shockingly hard time getting to 15 things. If you sit down and you really try to create a list of 15 things that went well in your day, if you're normal, it's going to be hard. Most people get from 4 to 6, and then they're like, I can't think of anything else. So if you get to that point, if you have a hard time as you're doing this, don't be afraid to write down things like, I have clean water, I have indoor plumbing, I have a bed to sleep in. Things that you're grateful for are things that are good in your life. And noticing them is also building up this skill of positivity. So I hope that what you do is you take this time to reflect on the things that you're doing well, things that you're doing good, things that you're making progress in, things that you have, things that are benefiting you, that are helping you out. The practice takes time, but it's critical to get to flourishing. Remember what flourishing looks like. For plants, it's easy to see. For humans, it's a little bit tougher. But you'll feel flourishing more than you will notice it externally. And if you want to feel better, if you want to feel a little more happiness in your life, if you want to feel a little bit more fulfilled, if you want to have those good feelings more often, do a What Went Well journal and really put something into it. Might take you 5-10 minutes to do, might take a little bit longer, but it's totally worth it. Okay, here's your challenge. Do your What Went Well journal, and I want you to get together with your jet time groups, your families, your friend groups, yourself, and start brainstorming more positive things that you can do. How can we create more positive inputs? And I'm not talking about silly, sarcastic ones. I'm talking about real, meaningful, positive inputs. Okay? I want to finish with this. I told you positivity is not about foo-foo stuff. It's not about just pretending like there's nothing bad going on. And we are not asking you to pretend that there's nothing bad going on. But what positivity means in a context like that is that we notice the negative feelings that we have. We honor our inner wisdom like we've talked about before. And we try to do something about it. We own our response. Event plus the response equals the outcome. I control my attitude, my effort, how I treat others, and being unconditionally grateful. And so when we hit a negative, it's not about ignoring the negative. It's about how can we use this negative to create something positive. Can I challenge myself? Maybe I need to have a tough conversation with somebody. Maybe I need to go have a tough conversation with my mom or my dad to deal with something that's really negative. But when you do it, and you do it well, you honor yourself, you're more courageous, and you get more positives out of dealing with the negatives appropriately. So when you use that power equation to your advantage, when you own your response and you own your life, you're actually using negatives to build positives. So please don't think this is about ignoring the negatives, because we all have negative stuff that we have to deal with. But we can meet that negative stuff in a positive way by honoring ourselves and showing courage in dealing with it. So I hope that you'll remember that. Honestly recognizing your negative feelings and using your best attitude and effort to work through them generates more positivity in your life. So don't back down from those things. Don't back down from the things that are negative. Stand up to them. Be courageous. Go deal with what you need to deal with, and it will unlock the door to creating even more positivity for you. Challenges to do a What Went Well journal. Challenges to brainstorm the positive stuff. Let's make this school the best place to be, because we understand how to use positivity as a skill, because we notice the good in ourselves and we notice the good in each other. We love you guys. We believe in you. Go slay it today. All right? Thank you. Off to second period.